Oh, thank you very much, Aaron. I'll try to save us some time. So let me go to the outline of our presentation. Why is support from other sectors important? How to generate the support, some South African experiences, and some concluding notes. I don't need to remind this audience of the next few slides, but I thought just for the sake of completeness, I will remind us that the NTB strategy of WHO speaks a fair bit about the role of government, the role of government's accountability, as well as a multi-sectoral approach to the TB program. So it's all there in WHO. All the member states, all 191 of us have adopted it. So the key question is, if it's not happening and if government is not stepping up to the plate, why not? And how do we hold them or us accountable? If you look at the pillars, it's well worked out. We know, for each of the pillar 2, what the key components are. So, there's not a lot of mystery about what needs to be done. If you look at the paradigm shift, the Stop TB Partnership strategy, which was launched last year, again, it talks at some length about inclusive leadership and government leading from the front. So there's a lot we already have signed up to. So the key is how to do it. I think I want to reflect on the Global TB Caucus, and I think there were some mentions of them in the earlier sessions. And I think this is going to be key, Diana, to how to get parliamentarians to hold ministers, not just ministers of health, but ministers of all the sectors accountable when they present their budgets to parliamentarians. Because, ultimately in most democracies at least, parliamentarians sign off on the budget. Sometimes it is a given that the budget is signed off, and sometimes there's a struggle to get it signed off. But I do think that the Global TB Caucus presents us with a particular opportunity to get ministers across the sectors of government to put into their budgets some language that relates to the ending TB strategy that we've all signed up to. And this is, and I won't read it in the interest of time, some of the key deliverables of the Global TB Caucus, which now spans, parliamentarians from over 130 countries. We obviously hope that all 191 countries that have signed up to the UN will have members of parliament that work across geographic and political divides, as they say, in a non-partisan way to focus on TB, and that they will engage civil society and other stakeholders, as well as confront stigma and social isolation. And I think that's going to be one of the critical, besides getting the money, which parliamentarians need to do, critical to this is to help confront stigma and social isolation with respect to TB. One of the things, Luchika, we've not heard thus far in terms of how to get the message across to parliamentarians as well as members of civil society and ministers is the 90-90-90 language for TB. Now, as we were reminded just now by Richard, that the 90-90-90 for HIV has got significant resonance in the HIV community across the board. But we've not got the same resonance on the 90-90-90 or something equally memorable for TB. And the key question is, how to get something that's easily remembered by people who have a lot of things on their mind and lots of decisions to make. So I will encourage everyone to, if you've not read the paradigm shift document of the Stop TB Partnership together with the NTB strategy of WHO, that we need to really make the language as simple as possible for ministers of government across the sectors. In South Africa, moving now to South Africa, where I can talk a little bit more passionately as well as intelligibly, there's a very curious note to HIV, malaria, and TB in our National Development Plan. And I've quoted a section from it that suggests that, and I quote, that we need to improve human security, especially when it comes to water and energy, and knowledge sharing on vital issues such as communicable diseases, most notably HIV, malaria, and TB. I don't even know what this means, but at least it's there, which means that all government ministers need to sign up to it and deliver on it. But I think my job is to make this a little bit more intelligible. At the moment, even I don't understand it. In terms of our South African experiences, we have the South African National AIDS Council, and despite its name, It includes TB and other sexually transmitted infections. We, for the longest time, got people to try and change the name without any success, but we have it in the strategic plan. It comprises 19 sectors, and government is only one sector in this council, but it has very active participation by civil society across the board, both inside the council and outside of the council. We're also very privileged to have an interministerial committee on TB and HIV, which we've been trying to use to kind of get the other government departments and other ministers to sign up to doing something very concrete about TB. But Aaron, truth to say, that people know a lot about HIV in this interministerial committee, but not as much about TB. So we need to clearly do more to get the TB agenda more firmly entrenched in this interministerial committee. We have a very comprehensive strategic plan, which includes a lot about TB. And one of the things I'd like to say about the strategic plan for TB is we've now expanded it to try and find at least 160,000 of the global just over 4 million people who are missing from our treatment programs. So we in South Africa, and the NTP manager is in the audience, Mr. Mameja, we are committed, he and I, to find at least 80,000 of them between now and the end of March next year. And we would like to encourage all countries to find people with TB, especially our colleagues in BRICS, because we account for a significant proportion of both drug-susceptible TB and drug-resistant TB. So if any of my colleagues from the other countries in BRICS are here, we are asking you to sign up as well. We're also able to convince our National Treasury, which means the Minister of Finance, to give us a bit more money for TB and put it into a conditional grant, which we allocate from the national level, from the national department level. And key to that is to look at how we can empower community health workers to help us find patients who are not in our system, either those who have never been screened and tested for TB, or those that have been on TB treatment but fell off for one reason or another, or those that have been tested but not on treatment. So we think that the additional resources we have from our own resources as well as from the Global Fund and other sources will help us make the case for why TB needs additional resources. Now, I have to say something in his absence about my boss. He's going to come to close the session today. But we've been really, really privileged, not only in the Ministry of Health, but across the government sectors, in having a TB champion in our minister. And the key question for other countries is how to get one of the ministers, it needn't be the Minister of Health, to be your champion in cabinet. We've certainly been very privileged to have Minister Motsoaledi leading the charge in South Africa. He's been instrumental also in getting the BRICS, his colleagues in BRICS, to step up to the plate. And I'm glad to say we've just come out this week from a BRICS health ministers meeting, and we've had a very successful meeting on 2 counts with respect to TB. The one is that they've all signed up to attending and getting their heads of state to attend the BRICS, the high-level meeting in September. We, of course, hope that materializes. Secondly, they've all signed up to and have been very useful in facilitating the organization of a network, a BRICS TB research network. And we are very encouraged by the fact that members of the network have already met thrice, and there's a commitment from the BRICS countries to financially support the network as well. So we're very pleased on those 2 accounts. My concluding notes is the strategies for involving government and holding government accountable, I think, are fairly clear. We can get to political commitment, but we have to use every opportunity to make the case to end TB as a public health threat. We need to mobilize all politicians to ensure that TB gets the budget it needs at both local and global levels. And finally, my final 2 points, we need to work closely with diplomats in New York to get the best possible political declaration in September. I'm told at the moment they are almost ready to clinch a deal, but for 1 or 2 outstanding matters, we are hoping that in the next few days, we'll be able to deal with those 2 outstanding matters. So finally, let's not waste the opportunity. We heard a lot about the opportunity this morning, about the window of opportunity, don't lose this opportunity, etc. that the opportunity that the high-level meeting on TB will give us. But let's get our politicians there and let them do the work that we need them to do for us. Thank you very much.